Hi everyone. So we had the verdict come in on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial yesterday, and if you're not aware, Johnny Depp came ahead and won on all 3 counts. He was awarded $10 million and $5 million in punitive damages, which was subsequently reduced to $350,000, which is the cap in Virginia. And Amber Heard was found to win on only one of her counts and awarded $2 million for that with no punitive damages. So Amber Heard is in the hole a little over $8 million, which she does not have, but she's taking it badly. For those of you who do not like this topic, you're probably not even watching this video, but I do think that there's a lot of people in the truth community who discard this as a hoax or a psyop and won't look at it, which initially I did. I was like, I don't want to waste my time and energy on this because I know what it is. And you would be mistaken in doing so, because there's a lot in this that is very revealing. There's a tremendous amount of information in this, revealing information about what's going on in the world right now. Basically, a lot of things are imploding, and I think the biggest thing that I found in this story is the revelation of truths that are well hidden, except for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, in realizing that this is revealing much more esoteric truths about the nature of this reality, meaning the information that I imparted in my Dark Shadows videos and audios. If you have not seen that, I highly recommend that you do, because it's got some very compelling information in there revealing the nature of this reality, and especially on archetypes. And you might get enough out of just watching the video. If not, I recommend that you get the companion piece, because that will tell you all the details that I normally do, like I did with Free Guy, that I normally do, and go into decoding a piece that's where that information is. Now, I put it aside as a in a fee structure, simply because I'm feeling that a lot of my content is being taken for granted. I'm not getting a lot of support in terms of financial support, or even just support in terms of comments, likes, shares, that sort of thing, and so I'm having to ask for it. I don't like doing it, but if I don't ask for it, I don't get it. So this is the best way that I can come to terms with making a compromise between satisfying my needs in terms of what I need for support, as well as your needs in providing the uncompromised truth. So I've provided you with all the tools to be able to do this for yourself. If you can't, or you want to know what my perspective is, then you can make a contribution and have access to the information that I put together, and it'd be well worth your while in doing so. Now, having said all of that, I want to get into this, which I want to just sort of cast my perspective on what I see is going on from a truther perspective. And I'm not really getting into it very detailed. I'm not doing a decode on this or anything. I feel like the most important decode information was in the Dark Shadows story, so that to me is sufficient. But if something else comes up in the future that I feel is worth making a report on, I will do so. Now, as I started out saying, Amber Heard is not taking it very well, and what I want to start out saying is I do feel a little bit sorry for Amber Heard having been afflicted with this narcissistic personality disorder that she has. Watching the trial and watching her testimony and listening to the audio tapes and the experiences that these two went through, whether you believe it's real or not, nothing here is fucking real, so, you know, take it whatever you want, though, whatever way you want. For simplicity's sake, I am going to take it at face value. So, what I do think, though, is that it is more metaphysical than it is physical, and that these people are real in the sense of, like, you're real, but I do think that they're Johnny Depp and Amber, potentially Amber, but Johnny Depp for certain, are consciously aware of the role they play here. I do not know if Amber's necessarily consciously aware. She could be. But Johnny Depp, I think Johnny Depp is definitely consciously aware of the role he plays here. Okay, so yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for Amber Heard because listening to the trial, listening to her testimony and listening to the audio tapes and the anguish and the torture and the torment that she puts herself through with her messed up mind in suffering from this disorder is palpable. For the way that she sees things and her twisted reality and how she creates this torment for herself, and she creates this this dynamic with people whenever Johnny would leave her, whether it was for a couple of hours or, you know, she, you know, just to go see his daughter, she would go into a tailspin and freak out to the extreme that she felt like she was dying. I mean, that's how bad it was. And she would project onto him that he was doing it to her, doing it to hurt her, which has to be absolutely horrifying to live through if you're someone who has that perspective. So from that point of view, I can empathize with her and feel sorry for her. But what she has done to other people and is blind to what she has done to other people and is still blind to it because her narcissism refuses, it won't let her see it because everybody else has to be at fault with a narcissist. It makes it even worse because she's inflicting trauma and pain and suffering on everyone around her, and she can't see it. She believes that they're the ones doing it to her and that she's just defending herself. And so she thoroughly believes that what she is saying is true. And yet, even then, when she's telling the stories in trial, she can't even evoke genuine emotion. She can't cry. It's all an act. It's all fake, or at least it comes across as fake, even though it might be real for her. And I think that if you're someone who's not that interested in this, I think it would do you well to listen to the audio recordings, to go watch her testimony, and that way you can understand the mind of a narcissist, because there's so many people who have had a first-hand experience with a narcissist like her, who have taken Johnny's side because they feel vindicated vicariously through him and want justice for themselves. They want to be vindicated for themselves, and so they didn't have that opportunity because most people in the world are so ignorant of the existence of narcissists, what they're capable of, how they think. They don't know what a narcissist is, and they don't know what that people like this exist, or that they can lie like this, to fabricate horrific crimes and horrific rape and horrific violence, and then because she's fabricated it, to ultimately believe it, because her narcissism has to make it believable to her, because she's not allowed to be wrong. The narcissism won't allow her to be wrong, and so it becomes reality to her, which is, in a way, it's psychosis. It's a psychotic situation she's created here, because she's believing a lie. So you can learn a great deal just by watching her testimony and listening to the audio tapes, and understanding what the narcissistic mind is, especially if you have never encountered someone like this, or even if you have and don't know it. You will understand that mentality and that mindset to fine detail that you really don't have privy to. And this case, the verdict came in yesterday, which was also National Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. Go figure. So this whole trial, huge portion of the point of this trial was to raise awareness about narcissists and narcissistic abuse, as I have said, which is why I'm doing the Narcissistic Mind series, because so many people don't understand that this is a mind creation. So many people don't understand that the egoic mind is the narcissistic mind, and that is the one that rules this place. And if you understand how that mind works, then you are able to separate yourself from it and return to heart mind. So, I want to touch on some of the, topics that this event has affected. The first one being feminism. This idea of believe all women, and abuse is prevalent. This believe all women sort of came out of the Me Too movement, and this idea that women weren't believed if they didn't have enough evidence of abuse, because it was shameful, they felt like they deserved it, or because you were married, you had this sort of old-fashioned mentality of women belonged to their husband, and the husband could do whatever they wanted to their wife. The wife was property, which is so archaic and wrong, and narcissistic, because narcissists view other people as property, not people. They're not individuals. They don't have their own lives and wants and desires and needs. So the whole movement of Me Too and believe all women was supposed to provide women with this platform, or a window into being heard, ironically. Now you have Amber Heard, and funnily enough, while they were in court doing the closing arguments, there was an Amber Alert that went off, and so Amber, I mentioned the decode of Amber in my Dark Shadows, and so there, the other part is Johnny Depp refers to her as Miss Heard, so Miss Heard means that you're not heard properly. Johnny Depp to this point has not been heard properly. He hasn't been listened to. So now you've got believe all women and misheard. You misheard that you should believe all women. Well, what about men? men have been left out as well. Back when I was in university, I took a philosophy of feminism class, and I thought that it was a philosophy class first, not a feminism class. However, it was very clear to me on the first day that the professor wanted us to adopt this feminist mentality, which is not a philosophy class, that's a feminism class. And there was one boy in the class, and I made the statement, thinking that we were in a philosophy class. I made the statement that, well, the way I see things headed is that the white man is going to be suppressed, and everything else is going to be dominant. And I was right. And I was basically, everybody in the class turned to me with dagger eyes. So I dropped the class because obviously I wasn't allowed to have a different kind of opinion. You can't use just because one area of society is suppressed, it doesn't make it right to oppress the leading or the more powerful area of society in order to boost your area of society. That's doing exactly the same thing they did to you doesn't make it right. Using feminism as a way of beating down men doesn't make it right. Using MGTOW as a way of beating down women doesn't make it right. You have to be able to be inclusive. I hate that word because to me inclusivity is such a woke term. I can't stand woke anything. You should be able to be accepting and appreciative of people no matter where they are or who they are, or male, female, black, white, Indian, Chinese, Asian, and if you take offense to however I describe people, well, come on, loosen up a little. I don't mean any offense by it. I'm just trying to explain, and I shouldn't even have to paraphrase this, not paraphrase, provide a parentheses on explaining why I'm explaining it this way. But this is the nutso world we're living in. So this also tacks on to woke culture, leftism, toxic masculinity. All of these subjects are involved in this trial, in this case, and this is blown up into something incredibly huge. It is 10 times bigger than the O.J. Simpson case. This trial is so important. It has blown open so many holes, so many problems, so many issues, so many weaknesses in the system, and is starting to tear down those walls. So going back to the feminism and the believing all women and the toxic masculinity, and a lot of the tone and the messaging coming from people who are supportive of Amber Heard are very ignorant and don't listen. Some of them are unaware narcissists. Some of them are just ignorant and stupid. Some of them are female victims who have sided with her because they relate to her, because they went through the same thing. And I just listened to an audio by H.G. Tudor who has said the same thing. I had the same opinion before I listened to his audio, but he does say the same thing. And so they're hooked on this and can't let it go now. Maybe they got heavily involved and heavily invested in her position before all of this, and so they won't even listen to contrary opinions or contrary evidence. The evidence speaks for itself. So, for example, this tweet says, I guess we should apologize to this woman and take it all back then. Where is Tanya Head, the woman who faked being a 9/11 survivor now? I don't think that it's about, taking it all back. It's about listen to the individual, but also you shouldn't be putting people through this trial or cancel culture, or this public trial or public opinion trial without due process of whatever. If they want to go through the law or whatever, you need to have evidence. But Amber Heard went to the papers. Well, she went to the media. She went to TMZ, and she talked about. She went to the courts, filed a TRO, called TMZ. Either she did it or someone on her team did it, which was what was said in the trial. And TMZ showed up and covered the event. So that was this kicking off point where she had alleged that Depp had assaulted her. Now, this should not be allowed. Without proving in a private manner through a court of law or what have you, you should not be allowed to go to the media and defame someone or make accusations like this, especially if you're a celebrity who has that ability, because normal people don't have that ability. You can't, as a normal, average, everyday person, you're not able to go to the media and say, hey, I'm going to file a TRO against my husband and I got beat up. Can you come down and take a picture of my bruised face so that I can prove it to the public people? They don't give a shit. They don't know who you are. Nobody else knows who you are, and no one's going to care. So why should celebrities be allowed to do that? It's wrong, first of all. It's ethically wrong. And the media ought to take responsibility for something like this, where they shouldn't be reporting this stuff. Anyhow, but at the same time, there's a lot of criticism. What is a woman? This is so retarded. So at the same time, the media is taking things all out of context. They're flipping everything around. They're actually saying that Amber Heard won. They are still standing behind their position that Johnny Depp is an abuser, despite the evidence, despite the fact that he won the case. I mean, they're basically doubling down because they had said this initially and they didn't bother to check their facts, which is, again, the fault of the media. So this is really opening up eyes to the faults of the mainstream media, the lack of journalistic integrity, and people aren't listening to them anymore. The way that some of these media outlets have reported on this is shameful. So, your gender does not make you unable to lie. Women can lie and men can lie. Dare I say, humans in general can lie. Again, gender does not make you automatically truthful. That's true. So, this one's, I do not believe all women. Sorry, but fuck believe all women. Not all women are honest. Not all women are pure and good. Some women are the abusers. And some men are the victim. She didn't have real evidence. She had staged opportunities. Exactly. So now a lot of people are turning on the believe all women position and the Me Too position, and it's kind of ugly. There's a lot of mudslinging, there's a lot of division, there's a lot of hate on both sides, there's a lot of anger, and a lot of these people who are angry are people who have been through abuse themselves. They feel that they haven't been supported by the system, they haven't been supported by police or the judicial system, or whatever they have access to in order to fight their fight. And when you get entangled with a narcissist, you can literally lose everything if it doesn't kill you. I mean, narcissists can kill you. And it is the worst thing you can go through, narcissistic abuse. I also wanted to touch on the sort of blind loyalty. When I hear some of the people who refuse to look at the case, or they refuse to look at the trial, they think it shouldn't be televised because it's like a circus. I think it needed to be televised because the fact that Amber put it into the limelight first. She threw the gauntlet down. She went to TMZ and made it public. She's the one who put it there first. She defamed Johnny Depp, and he needed to publish these audio recordings that they had in order to raise awareness of what actually happened. Now, in general, I would agree that people's private lives should not be made public, but in this case, because it is about defamation, because it is about a public figure whose livelihood is on the line, whose reputation is on the line due to someone who has defamed him, it should be made public, because the evidence is what speaks. And the idea that a verdict alone being publicized is not going to be compelling enough for people to be convinced that she lied. You need to prove that she lied, which is what the evidence proves. Now, there's a lot of people who refuse to look at it and have a very firm opinion that, oh, I don't believe she lied. Now, I know that there's a lot of these people are members of the LGBTQ, which is what she is, Amber. They're also abused. So those two things also create a bond with this character. And they cannot believe, even if they are aware of narcissists and narcissistic abuse, they may not may not be privy to the nuances of the different types of narcissists and what they're capable of. They may not have suffered abuse by a narcissist of her particular category. And so they're not capable of understanding that someone is able to lie to this extent. I mean, this is a horrific extent that she's gone to make up these stories. And the things that she said are, I mean, beyond your imagination that you would even think to say about another person, no matter how much you hated them. And she claims to love Johnny. So, I mean, I find that a lot of people are just blind to it and they don't want to hear anything to the contrary. And a lot of those people are also so LGBTQ, abused, leftist, woke culture, all of those. There maybe even feminism. All of those in that category. The more ingrained they are in that mindset, the harder it is to get them to budge their opinion. There's some sort of mental block keeping them in this area that they feel that they've got they got things figured out, or they've got a handle on their little niche area of society, and they don't want to budge because they feel safe there. So they can't even consider something outside of that that way of thinking. It's like trying to tell somebody, trying to tell somebody the truth doesn't want to hear it. So the other subject that this touches on is free speech. And truth. I mean, truth is a big one. Johnny Depp is all about truth. He repeats it time and again. It's in multiple of his movies. He says things that the truth is the only thing that matters to me. He said that in movies. He said that on the stand. His website is about the truth. And so his whole position in life right now is all about the truth. And so this is also pushing people in the direction of the truth and finding the truth. So with all of these subjects being touched upon in this case, in this event, compounded with the truth, it should crack open a lot of things for people in realizing what's going on here. And, you know, like I said in the previous video regarding this case with Amber Heard making statements from movies allegedly, some of the things, like a lot of people have noticed, they're saying, well, this doesn't seem real somehow. Like there's something off about this. Maybe this will prompt them into looking a little deeper. Will they get to a place where they realize there's, you know, something metaphysical going on here? I seriously doubt it. That's a long journey for them to get to that point. Some might get there faster than others, but it's still a very long journey if you're still in the mainstream media mindset. Even if you're in the, you know, alt media mindset, it's still a long journey to get to that point. But it will crack open a lot of the paradigms people are used to that they now no longer hold to. And so free speech, Amber is complaining that she no longer has the right to free speech. But this is not free speech. If you are defaming somebody or you're telling outright lies, that's not free speech. The right for free speech is the right to speak the truth. So you can express your opinion, but what she did was not expressing opinion. She accused him publicly of sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. And you cannot do that and call it free speech. That's not free speech. Again, this is a mental block. This is an entitlement issue. This is, you know, narcissists have a sense of entitlement. The sense of entitlement that they are allowed to say whatever they want and do whatever they want without any repercussions and throw it under the category of free speech for their misbehavior, for their pointing fingers and lack of accountability. It's not free speech. And this is the sort of, you know, mind-bending nuttery that so many people suffer from. It's not even a narcissistic thing. I mean, it's probably a narcissistic trait, but it's not necessarily that you suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, that you have this issue. It's just a way of thinking that is corrupted. And, you know, if your mind is corrupted that way, it is painful to listen to someone who thinks like this. So, free speech is one aspect that's been touched on. Legal system and lawyers is another. The reliance on the legal system, on one hand, the people who support Johnny Depp think that the legal system came through. However, he did sue the Sun newspaper in England in, was it 2018? and it went to trial in 2020, and he lost that case. And there's evidence to show that it's possible he lost it because of the corrupt nature of the connections of the legal team in the UK courts. I don't doubt it, knowing what I know about this place. And I have a theory on that. I can't get into that here, otherwise I'll be here forever, but the short of it is that I suspect that in the overall arc of this story, had he won back then, nobody would have heard about it. He needed to lose that case, but he needed to have that case in order to release the tapes. The tapes have been released since that trial, and the tapes had to be released. The information, the truth about her had to come out, but he wasn't able to release all of it. So there was some information that was leaked, and that helped to build the momentum behind the supporters for this event. It would not have been as big. People would not have known about it as much and known the truth as much, or had the resources to go back and find all of this information to be aware of what was going on, had that case not happened a few years ago. So that had to happen. He had to lose that case in order to have this case today, so that it could be as big as it is, and the information from that case, the tapes could come out. All of the recordings from that trial could come out, and the mountains of evidence that Amber Heard claims she has was actually in favor of Johnny Depp. So that's my theory in a nutshell as to why he had to lose that case in the grand overall story of this whole story and it's going on. So the legal system on Amber's side failed her. They are blaming the jury, saying the jury was incompetent and they didn't know what they were doing, because the fact that they found in favor of one of the statements that was made by Adam Waldman, who was Johnny Depp's lawyer at the time, and they say that he was acting on behalf of Johnny Depp, which I think they failed to provide a link to. But I also think that he made a statement, and I don't particularly think that it was made with malice. I think he believed it when he made it. I think it was pretty close to the truth. I think they had a hard time proving that that's what actually happened, and that's why they found in favor of Amber on that statement. And I think that the $2 million that they gave her was generous, considering she didn't really lose anything and there was no proof linking those statements to any loss of income. So she should actually be pretty satisfied with that, but I understand if you are fighting, believing that what you're saying is true, and you're fighting for your position and you think you have a case, otherwise she wouldn't have, countersued, then you would feel that you lost. I mean, she did lose, but her position is messed up. The other thing about the legal system is the legal teams. Now, I have a really big bone to pick with this legal team issue, because as I mentioned in my blog on my website, all of these YouTubers suddenly popped up out of nowhere called Lawtube. And these YouTubers have been talking about this case from day one, basically, and networking with each other and sharing information with each other about the case, about the trial. And several of them went to the courtroom and were there in the courtroom, camped out. And, you know, my little suspicion is that they were supposed to be there, not that they, you know, were just regular people who decided that they were going to go. Because there were a lot of people standing in line trying to get in there. And they happened to get in every single time. And there were quite a few of them. So, anyhow, what I noticed about these lawyers is, first of all, they were there to basically walk you through the trial so that they could handhold people who are not familiar with the legal system or legalese, and obviously they never grew up watching legal television. So they could handhold them through the legal process and explain to them what was going on and why certain things happened the way that they happened. And the biggest bone I have to pick with these people is their support for Amber Heard's incompetent legal team. It's glaringly obvious how bad her legal team is. An idiot can see how bad her legal team is. They had moments. They had, you know, moments where they shined, but they were incompetent. They didn't have a case. They didn't clearly state their case. They were found often bumbling at the podium. They were at a loss for how to phrase. They couldn't even phrase questions properly without getting constantly knocked back by Depp's legal team with objections. They struggled to come up with alternative phrasing in order to get where they needed to go. They asked stupid questions that didn't have any relevance. Things like, isn't it true that you wanted to be here for your 15 minutes of fame? And instead of tackling the subject matter, they would attack their character. Elaine was one of the lawyers, and she attacked one of the psychiatrists, Dr. Curry, by asking her if she had dinner at Johnny Depp's house during and she was trying to make it look like it was some sort of secret affair type of dinner, and it wasn't. It was a business meeting that went overtime, and she got hungry, so he ordered food. I mean, what has that got to do with anything? Why don't, if you do these things when you don't have anything to criticize about the content of their material that they presented? And she would do this multiple times. But like I said, there were moments where she was strong, moments where the other guy was strong, rotten born, and but for the most part, they were weak. They were terrible. They were weak. They had weak arguments, and their personalities were unlikable, which was unfortunate. And I don't think that had they been on the Depp team that they would have been any more likable. I think a lot of people excused their behavior as a product of working for Amber, but I think it's just their personalities, which later came out when Elaine went on she went on the news today saying that Amber is going to contest, she's going to appeal. And she defended Amber as if she knew that as if she thought she was telling the truth, which she's not. I can't believe that a lawyer who went through that trial and saw all that evidence and came out with that verdict still believes Amber's telling the truth. I really can't fathom it. And Elaine was also found crying in the bathroom, and people assumed that she was crying because she was beaten down by Amber, or she was upset that she had to put her career on the line to defend this liar. But now that she's gone on the news and said what she said, they don't have any sympathy for her anymore. And so they shouldn't. Somebody like that does not deserve your sympathy, because obviously she is, I think in one aspect she's trying to defend her position, she's trying to defend her career, but I think she probably would have done a better job if she had just shut up and not said anything. So yeah, so I've noticed that the lawyers, the YouTube lawyers, the Law2, actively defended Amber's team, made a point of saying, well, that was a very strong argument, and they're actually a very strong legal team. Yeah, they have a strong reputation. I'll give them that. However, Elaine, I looked her up. Elaine, they said that she generally settled out of court. She wasn't really strong in domestic violence type cases. She wasn't strong in arguing in court. They really needed somebody who was strong in these sorts of things. I didn't look up Rottenborn, but they have a good reputation. However, they are not strong in this. And the witnesses that they pulled up, the professional, what are they called? The professionals who testified on their behalf in support of Amber were a hot mess. There's no other way to put it. They were a hot mess. Some of them were just out and out clowns. They were sloppy, defensive. A lot of them seemed to suffer from narcissism, which is interesting, because they were so defensive and took things personally. It was as if, well, one of the psychiatrists or psychologists, Hughes was her name, I think, she seemed to personalize Amber's situation and tell the story as if it was her own, which was very weird. She also made statements that were outside of her area of expertise, claiming that she knew that Depp was abusive when she had no evidence of it. So this sort of thing was just so obvious and so blatant that I don't know how these people can be stating that they're a strong legal team unless they've been told to say that, which I think they have. I think that these law tubers were placed on YouTube, to explain to people what's going on in the case, so that they get a firm grasp of why things happened the way they happened, and B, so that they believe that Heard's legal team was up to snuff when they weren't. Now, Depp's legal team, they were pretty good. They were very strong. However, there were a lot of things that they missed that, I mean, I'm not even a lawyer, but I kind of think like a lawyer in a lot of ways. That's just the sort of justice and truth seeker in me. There's a lot of things that came up that they missed, that they could have capitalized on, and they could have really hit home. But, you know, I just sort of thought, well, maybe it's their strategy. Maybe this is why they're doing it. And there are a couple other lawyers that I think were kind of more on the legit side on LawTube who also said this. So there were a lot of times where certain things were missed. Cancel culture is another thing that came up in this event. Obviously, you know, Johnny Depp got canceled. Pirates of the Caribbean was canceled because because of all of the things that his wife alleged, or ex-wife alleged, about him. And so he lost some revenue there, and he was suffering from all this trauma. So his the movies he was in, just sort of the roles got smaller and smaller, and he was just sort of diminishing as a star, which is kind of part of. It's not really part of cancel culture, but it might have been part of cancel culture because the Sun episode came about because he was cast in the Harry Potter spin-off movie, Mythical Beasts or something. Anyway, and they said, why are they casting this guy? He's a wife beater. And so he was probably very concerned about what people thought of him when he went to set and that sort of thing. So there's that sort of aspect to it as well. Now, psychiatry and mental health is also a big part of this. Again, it goes in hand with the narcissism. But like I said, too, in my blog post, there's a lot of psychiatrists that are on YouTube, just like there's a lot of lawyers on YouTube conveniently in place for this sort of thing who are covering this event. And there's especially a lot of them covering narcissism. So, Psychology in Seattle is one who covered it. And then there's a few others, but he's the one I kind of watched most. I didn't really watch a lot of them. I also watched H.G. Tudor, who's he's a narcissist who talks about narcissism. So he's gone in depth on explaining Amber Heard and her mindset, as well as Johnny Depp and what's going on here. So the whole awareness of narcissistic abuse and narcissism has been coming to the forefront through these people as well. But also psychiatry and the experts that these two teams pulled into the trial. Amber's were dubious and Depp's were very professional. A lot of the experts these two teams pulled in were like that. Now, Amber Heard, the reason there were psychiatrists pulled into the testimony the trial was because Amber claimed that she had PTSD. So she had to get a psychological evaluation because of that claim. She had this psychiatrist, Dr. Hughes, perform an evaluation which was dubious at best, and she kind of messed it up because she performed all of these evaluations years ago with the first trial, and then after Dr. Curry, who was Johnny Depp's psychiatrist, performed her evaluation on her, and she performed what's called a CAPS-5. Dr. Hughes went back and performed a CAPS-5 on Amber as well, and they had two opposing opinions. Dr. Curry came back with the diagnosis of borderline and histrionic personality disorders, which are narcissistic personality disorders, and Dr. Hughes came back with PTSD. Dr. Curry said that there was no sign of PTSD, and there was signs and indicators of Amber exaggerating on her test results, exaggerating to extremes, and so she felt that she was lying. And I think that just in the presentation alone throughout the course of this case, you can tell she has borderline histrionic narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, it's obvious. To say that she suffers from PTSD, it's not obvious. I've had PTSD, not diagnosed, but self-diagnosed. I've been through narcissistic abuse, had PTSD from it. It was debilitating. I could barely function. I would argue as well, anybody who goes through the truth and their paradigm is shattered, you suffer from PTSD. Not to the extent of somebody who's been to war, for example, but it's debilitating. It rips you to shreds from the inside out. So the PTSD that you go through in the truth, yeah, you suffer from trauma through the truth. So you should have some experience with that to some extent. If you've been through physical violence, I have not been through physical violence or sexual violence. It was only psychological and emotional. And so that would definitely give you PTSD. Johnny, on the other hand, exhibits signs of PTSD, but not to a tremendous extent. So I think that after a while, since he's gone through it for 6 years, you kind of become numb. So, and he was self-medicating with drugs and everything, so that kind of got him through it, sadly. But, yeah, so what, there was another expert that they called in on the Heard side who was this, like, supposed expert on narcissism, and he was called in to study Johnny Depp, and he just used existing media. He said he used some of the movies that he did as well as his testimony, and he said that he had declining cognitive ability because he was testifying and he was speaking very slowly, but he was testifying. If you see him on other things, he talks fine. He isn't slow, but when he's testifying, he's slower because he's trying to be more deliberate with his words. I mean, any normal person can tell that he's speaking that way because he's choosing his words carefully so he's not being taken out of context. So there's this guy that they hired. He admitted that he used his movies and his commercials. I think, what commercials has Johnny Depp done? I don't know. He's done Dior recently, but he's silent in that. And so, and his testimony, and he didn't actually meet with Johnny Depp in person, and yet he was violating the what is it, Goldman rule or gold something or other rule, Goldwater rule, and diagnosed from afar, which psychiatrists are not supposed to do. He's not board certified, so I'm not sure if he is or isn't supposed to adhere to that, but he diagnosed from afar, which he's not supposed to do. It's not ethical. He's not supposed to even have a professional opinion from afar without meeting Depp in person and having his permission. So those things are violations. So to have an expert on your team commit a violation like that is just shocking. It's so unprofessional, and it just, to me, shows the unprofessionalism of the legal team in allowing something like that to happen, in picking these experts and thinking that it's okay. Obviously they think it's okay to be unethical, to be dodgy with the law, and to commit perjury, because like it was so obvious that Amber committed perjury. So there's the other aspect of the legal side too, is that Amber blatantly committed perjury. She did not believe that she was lying, but she was lying. And so she committed perjury. Now, it's not as easy, it's not very simple process to call somebody up on perjury, apparently. So it doesn't happen very often, but the public are outraged if she does not get held up on perjury charges. People are going to feel that the legal system is a bunch of bullshit because anybody can go there and lie. So either Amber's going to get away with it and it'll result in an uproar, or there's going to be a perjury charge laid upon her and she might get jail time. Now, okay, so those are all the things that I've noticed in this event that that happened, and I don't want to go on too much longer because it's already been an hour. But there's so much in this. It's so heavily laden with subjects and issues and topics and hot button issues, and it really is probably going to continue to cause people to talk about it, cause people to tear apart the media and the legal system and, you know, what have you. But obviously, one thing I also forgot about the cancel culture thing is there's kind of two levels to it, because on one level, the cancel culture thing where the powers that be decide who gets canceled. So some time ago, they decided that this girl from Disney was going to get fired for making these controversial statements, shall we say. And then a lot of people had backlash to that, and they said cancel Disney. So there's the powers that be make the decision on some level about cancel culture, and then there's the people who make the decisions on cancel culture. And right now, the decision in the public is they want Amber removed from Aquaman 2. Honestly, I don't see a way out of it. I don't see how the producers of Aquaman would be making a bad decision business-wise if they kept her in at this point. There are way more supporters for Johnny Depp than there are for Amber Heard, and they will fail at the box office if they release that movie with Amber in it. If they release that movie with her out of it, if they cut her out of it, either they kill her off or they replace her, they will make way more money, because the supporters for Johnny Depp are going to flock to the box office just to support that film because they cut her out of it. So they can't lose if they cut her out of it. They can lose, and they will lose if they leave her in it. So it's a no-brainer business decision to cut her. Now, a lot of people are also saying, you know, bring Johnny Depp back to Pirates of the Caribbean. That's not going to happen. Disney has already decided that they're not doing the sixth one with Johnny Depp. Whether they do it with somebody else or not, that's debatable. They probably just won't do one. But they've already decided. Johnny Depp is bitter about it. He's not going to go back. Rightfully so. And with the result of this trial, Disney's doubled down. They own ABC, and ABC has also come out with a statement saying that Amber Heard won, backing Amber Heard still. So, you know, this is a big problem. Big problem. Now, I'm going to reiterate, I am aware that this is part of the show, part of the system. It is a big staged production. I am aware of that. So anybody, you probably haven't even made it to this point, but anybody who thinks that I'm not aware of that, you know, I don't know what you're thinking. You don't watch my channel long enough or something. But I am aware of it. But in order to talk about this in a simplistic way, I need to talk about it as if it is a real thing, because it is a real thing. And it is a staged thing, but it is a real thing. It is a metaphysical staged event. Not all of it is a staged act fakery. Some of it is, which is why I think that some of these people are aware, consciously aware of the role they play here and who they are, like Johnny Depp. So it is a combination of staged fakery and metaphysical production of the tarot play. So I know a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people can't see past the physical, so they think that it has to all be 24/7 actors and a scripted event from top to bottom. But that's not how this place works. That's not what this is. And you can stick with that idea that it is a purely physical thing, but you're going to miss out on understanding what this place really is. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Thank you for watching and supporting my channel. If you like my content, kindly consider leaving a contribution, like, share, subscribe, leave a supportive comment, and be sure to subscribe to my backup channels and visit my website.